Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew Engel, astrologer and transformational coach. Today is September 1st, 2025, and this is my astrology report for the month of September. Astrologically, September is a powerful month. All five outer planets are now in their retrograde, which is their reverse or inward focused cycle. And five planets will cycle through the crisis degree points, 28 and 29 degree and 0 to 1 degree of their respective signs, therefore highlighting tendencies toward extremism and calling for further refinement before evolution into the next form can be realized. For the next few months, there's marked emphasis on deepening and integrating new areas of awareness that have emerged this year. A ripple effect of transformation will also be ignited by the coming eclipses, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. Saturn, which is the keeper of karmic cycles, who has a tendency to give us tough love in order to support maturation and refinement, is conjoining with Neptune, spiritual teacher, artist, and intuitive, who raises consciousness, as both planets dip their toes back into the critical degrees of Pisces. Just when you thought you were ready to take action in a new direction with a greater sense of purpose or direction, which is a signature of early Aries, the universe may be asking you to further refine a few lessons. These final degrees of Pisces remind us that we cannot become the person whom we admire or want to be simply by wishing it to be true, as is the case for the people in our lives. A theme here involves discernment of fantasy versus reality. Is someone worthy of your adulation and commitment merely because you hope for something different to emerge from them at some future point? Emotional boundaries and an honest assessment about current capacity for achieving desired outcomes may be put to the test. All of this pertains to late degree Pisces themes that are being further refined with Saturn having retrograded back into the final degrees of Pisces, particularly when it's conjoining the North Node through the coming eclipses. Who are you now, and who do you wish to become? What lessons require continued refinement in order to turn desired transformation into reality? How many of you have ever fallen in love with someone's potential? Have you ever felt disillusioned upon realizing that you didn't quite live up to your own aspirations? It's only through a commitment to ongoing hard work that we can transform into something different. But there is no final destination because evolution and consciousness raising are infinite. This higher truth applies to how we interact with every facet of our physical and ethereal worlds. Even when you achieve what you thought you desired, there will always be something else for which you yearn. That's the confusing part about Pisces and Neptune. And we're learning how to navigate this complexity. As mentioned, this September is an eclipse month. I like to think of eclipses as snapshots in time that become frozen and significantly magnified. Imagine a moment of your life from which everything that you're thinking, feeling, and experiencing suddenly becomes wallpapered all over your home and therefore embedded into your consciousness. It then lingers for at least 6 months. For some of you, attention given to the imprint will gradually fade, like a home renovation that finally becomes completed, or a medical procedure from which you heal, or an assignment at work or school. For others of you, you'll be forever changed. The specific themes and events depend on where the planets land in your astrological chart throughout the course of the lunar cycle during which these eclipses occur. Literally or metaphorically, something is illuminated, something dies, and something begins. That's the nature of an eclipse cycle. The lunar eclipse will take place on September 7th or 8th, depending on where on the globe you happen to be. And the solar eclipse, as always, will follow 2 weeks later this year on September 21st. The sun sign, which is our energy of outward expression, the moon, which is the ego, and the south node, which is our default manner of problem solving, all conjoin at 28 and 29-degree Virgo. This lineup of Virgo faces off with Saturn, which conjoins with the North Node, our evolutionary direction and destiny path, at 29-degree Pisces. A propensity to be overly analytical, mundane, and narrow-minded may be highlighted. Strong Virgo presence can lead to analysis paralysis, mundane, and even narrow-minded thinking. Although there is value in using empirical data, the additional variables of intuition, feelings, faith, compassion, and creativity, all Pisces themes, are also important. The polarity between Virgo and Pisces at crisis degree points represents the epitome of a necessity to refine our integration of body, mind, and spirit. Only through an earnest quest for that state of alchemy can we evolve through everything else with which we're being confronted. Additional archetypal face-offs, which will be occurring through the eclipse cycle. Mars, which is the archetype of the warrior, will be at the crisis degree point of 29-degree Libra, opposing Chiron, the archetype of the wounded healer, at 26-degree Aries. They're also going to be creating a T-square with Pluto at 1 degree Aquarius. So this eclipse cycle has a strong likelihood of escalating conflicts, or at least bringing them to the forefront. 29-degree Libra, which is the final degree point of Libra, can have a tendency to fight for its perception of justice at all costs. And it's often characterized by intense intellectualized reasoning. Pluto, in its shadow activation, can lead to a subconscious drive to achieve a position of power no matter what the cost. Our current arenas of politics and war are perfect examples. But keep in mind, whatever is going on in the collective is always, to some extent, a manifestation of some facet of our individual consciousness. Chiron in the mix, at the worst case scenario, may have a tendency to play the martyr, victim, or get lost in the crossfire of someone else's conflict altogether. In a conflictual angular relationship, such as an astrological square, which is an angular relationship of 90 degrees, or an opposition of about 180 degrees, within a few degrees on either end for an orb, the psychological expression of planets involved will always activate the worst in each other until marked evolution occurs. And there is opportunity for marked evolution to happen. Should you find yourself getting worked up, it may be helpful to take a very close inventory of the following. What wound or fear is being activated for you? And how might you lovingly tend to these parts of yourself or the collective? Is the fight you're taking on even your own? If not, how might you express loving support and discern where your role begins and ends so that you don't get swept away by the ills of the world, which is a common Piscean characteristic at its extreme expression? During this time frame, Jupiter in Cancer in a loose square with Mars and Chiron can highlight the belief in protecting those people whom we perceive to be vulnerable and those whom we love. No matter how right you think you are, remember that intellect is not the highest level of human evolution. Wisdom is developed from tangible knowledge as well as life experience, intuition, and an understanding that all things are connected. All of us are connected. We must take a careful look at what roles we're playing in our own drama and consider how our choices and reactions may be impacting others. I suspect that Chiron in the mix of these challenging squares will offer us an opportunity for healing, integration, and acceptance that some matters in life have no perfect answers. Can we be okay with that and embody some level of faith and ambiguity? Uranus, archetype of the innovative and abrupt change maker, or recluse, will gradually retrograde from early Gemini to the final degrees of Taurus over the next few months. During the eclipse cycle, technology that rolls out too quickly will likely have to be more carefully refined. Interestingly, this aspect will correspond with the time frame during which Apple is expected to release its latest iPhone and iOS. I anticipate a familiar looking device, Virgo, that may look or operate very differently and lead to a love-hate polarity among users. Signature Uranus and Gemini themes. The same may ring true for some of the 2026 model year vehicles released this fall. There's a conflict between reliability, which is a Virgo trait, and again, Venus will be in Virgo, and rapid innovation, which is a signature of Uranus in Gemini. And again, that's a conflictual square. Financial markets may be more erratic during this period as well. Personally, I would be extra cautious with investments. This square may also put relationships and material values to the test. Whenever I write or speak about astrology, I strive to find a balance between making enough references to astrological details so that there's context for those who are familiar with astrology without going so far into technicalities that I lose the people who are less astrologically savvy. My intention is to integrate the science and art of interpreting astrology so that those of you who follow my work can experience some of its wisdom, regardless of how much you may know specifically about astrology. You probably didn't need an astrologer or a therapist to point out that the world is a pretty crazy place right now. And it will be for a while. Hopefully, there's something transcendental that you can do with that uproar. If this discussion has been helpful, please forward it to a friend, subscribe to my channel. I plan to upload most of my future newsletter topics as well as other material to this channel in the months ahead. It would help me grow the channel if you would subscribe to it. For more information about astrology, therapy, transformational coaching, or hypnotherapy, please visit my website at matthewengel.com. Sending you many blessings through the month of September and always.